Let's bring in Marty Schenker, our Chief Content Officer here at Bloomberg, for some more perspective on Scott Pruitt's departure. So what do you think finally did it, Marty? Because as Joe was saying, it's been drip, drip, drip for months, and the president kept defending him and kept saying no, but he's doing a great job.
Yeah, I guess the water basically went over the lip of the pitcher. I mean, at a certain point, he was becoming a real liability, and even Donald Trump couldn't ignore it. I mean, even his fellow Republicans were raising questions about his effectiveness. And it was just, I think Donald Trump has shown an intolerance of this kind of behavior in the past, and it was just too much for him.
It's kind of weird because some people have left this administration and the cabinet post very fast. And so there's been a lot of characterization of very fast turnover in Trump's orbit. And then some people stick around for a long time. Was there anything in particular about Pruitt that Trump really felt a loyalty to him, or that he was really well suited for this job?
Well, the anti-regulatory forces that advised Trump thought that Pruitt was doing a fantastic job of deregulating the environmental legacy of previous administrations. That resonated with Donald Trump. He thought he was doing a terrific job, and that countered all this narrative about, you know, his unethical behavior. And so he has accomplished a lot of deregulatory things in his short tenure as EPA administrator. So, and I don't think it's going to be all that difficult to find somebody else to continue that legacy.
In fact, they did already, right? Andrew Wheeler, you were saying, the deputy?
The deputy is going to be installed. In place.
Yeah.
So you know, enough is enough.
Is it that hard to find a conservative who is going to rip up existing EPA regulations? Like,
no,
intuitively, it doesn't seem like it would be that hard of a job to replace.
No, and it won't. What may be interesting is the confirmation hearings, where a lot of the dismantling of environmental safeguards will get another hearing in Congress, and that could prove to be embarrassing, although to Trump's base, they were doing exactly what they thought he should be doing.
Again, I thought it was so interesting that there are so many Republicans who are calling for his dismissal as well. Joni Ernst, the senator, saying Scott Pruitt is about as swampy as you can get. Laura Ingraham, the conservative commentator, had tweeted that Pruitt is the swamp, drain it, and yet the president resisted consistently.
Right, and you know, and a lot of people felt that it was long overdue. But don't forget, I mean, the president is very loyal to people who are loyal to them. He's a very early supporter of the president. He was doing the job he expected him to do and wanted him to do. So it took a while, but Donald Trump finally did the right thing in a lot of people's eyes.
Have you ever seen a sort of saga like Pruitt's where someone just had such... I mean, it was like a daily story about him.
You know,
and they were all different, too. It wasn't like there was one kind of thing. It was the room.
Right.
It was the wife's job.
It was the
treatment of the employees. Like, they were all
today it was the CNN report about cleansing his calendar of embarrassing meetings.
Right.
And there were and this was from people who work for Pruitt. So I think it just got to be a bit too much for even the Trump administration to bear, especially when they have the agenda set in place and they can continue it unabated.
Yeah, probing Scott Pruitt's round-the-clock security protection, including the possibility that bodyguards accompanied him on trips to Disneyland and the Rose Bowl. I mean, these are really specific.
Yeah, this is a bad day for investigative journalism, I think. You know, Scott Pruitt just kept giving on a daily basis. And, you know, and I think that the Trump administration would not mind seeing that narrative go away.
Yeah. All right, let's bring in Kevin Cirilli, our chief Washington correspondent, who joins us by phone here as well. Kevin, what surprises you about the timing here? Because as we've been discussing with Marty, there's been calls for Scott Pruitt to step down as head of the EPA, but the president had resisted up until this point, stressing repeatedly that Scott Pruitt, while not blameless for the many, many controversies, was also doing a great job.
Yeah, two things that jump out. First and foremost, the split within conservative media that has really evolved in the past 24 hours, because up until that point, Scott Pruitt had the defense of many prominent conservatives, nationally speaking. But the second point that I would make is that top Republican donors, particularly Republican donors in the energy sector, had really backed Scott Pruitt for quite some time. And it would appear that over the last 24 hours and really over the last week, that also appeared to deteriorate. The political calculation, though, is interesting, particularly at a time when the president and his administration is gearing up for a contentious Supreme Court nomination. And the president will also need to have some acting director confirmed at the EPA. So the politics of this before the midterm election, something that many had speculated inside of the Beltway was going to be something that the president was going to hold off on. Ultimately, though, that barrage of controversy surrounding Director Pruitt, something that the president deciding not worth it.